Picture this. You're a provider who specializes in helping people overcome hormone and fertility challenges. You know the science. You have access to every test, every treatment. You've helped hundreds of patients conceive, but you yourself have been trying to have a baby for years with no success. That's exactly what happened to today's guest, who many of you already know and love, and who I'm honored to also call a friend, Dr. Stephanie Grabe. Today, we are flipping the script. I am beyond excited to welcome her to the show, not as the host of the Your Longevity Blueprint podcast, but as the guest. Dr. Grabe is a functional medicine practitioner, Amazon bestselling author, and a true expert in her field. She holds a doctorate in nursing practice with a focus on estrogen metabolism, a master's in metabolic nutritional medicine, and is fellowship trained in anti-aging, regenerative, and functional medicine. In the words of the great Ron Burgundy, she's kind of a big deal.
Oh my gosh.
But what makes her story so incredibly powerful is not her credentials. It's that despite being a hormone expert who's helped countless others navigate infertility, she spent over a decade facing her own journey to motherhood. Her path includes 8 IUIs, 7 IVF transfers, multiple surgeries, and more heartbreak than most of us can imagine. Through it all, she uncovered root causes that conventional fertility testing often overlooks, insights that ultimately helped her conceive the 2 biggest blessings in her life, these beautiful boys, William and Michael. Dr. Grabe has written a deeply personal and incredibly informative book called Your Fertility Blueprint, Renovating Your Reproductive Health. It comes out Tuesday, November 25th, so mark your calendars. Friends, this is not just another fertility book. This is a groundbreaking guide that is going to bridge the gap between functional and conventional medicine. It is written by somebody who has lived and breathed every step of the process, both as a practitioner and as a patient. And as somebody who's walked a similar path, I know how hard and how vulnerable it is to talk about infertility out loud. That is why today's episode is so special. Whether you're just starting to think about having a family, you've been on this journey for a while, you're walking, alongside somebody who is, this conversation today is going to be filled with hope, validation, faith, and practical insights that I don't think you're going to find anywhere else. So let's dive in. Welcome to another episode of the Your Longevity Blueprint podcast. I'm Ashley Grabe, and you might be wondering who I am and why I'm hosting today. Like Stephanie, I've walked the path of infertility. Our journeys ran in parallel in many ways, and I've had the honor of walking alongside of her through some of the most difficult and personal moments of our lives. Today is incredibly special for me to be here with her today, especially now as we both celebrate a new chapter in our lives. We are mothers to 2 beautiful children. We know that things could have gone very differently. Infertility is incredibly unpredictable, it's painful, and it is incredibly humbling, especially when you are so goal-oriented and you know what you want and you're just trying to get there. Together, we've learned so much through the process about ourselves, about our bodies, and about how the medical system supports and honestly sometimes overlooks women on this journey. I've heard Stephanie's story. I've lived parts of it with her, and today we get to share it with you. So let's start at the beginning. Welcome, Dr. Grabe.
I feel like I'm the guest that, I've had some guests come on that just start crying before the show even starts. And now it's me. I'm like crying and we haven't even got started. Because you're right, this is so special. And you have, walked this journey parallel, beside me. And it's been a very long, grueling journey. And as I mentioned before we started recording today, I'm just so thankful that we both endured and we each have 2 beautiful children. But yeah, like you said, our journeys could have been very different. And I'm just so thankful that I had the tools, that I had access to what I had access to. Otherwise, I don't think I would be here. And I told God, I can, not that you ever want to barter with God, but I told him, I remember on this journey, just like, oh God, please, like, give me the answers because I will share this journey with everyone. And it's surreal to like be here today with the book literally coming out with you finally sharing the story because it's been a long time in the making, but here we are. So,
Absolutely. So you're getting ready to release your new book, your Fertility Blueprint.
mhm.
We already kind of covered a little bit about what has inspired you to write it, but tell us a little bit more about what readers can expect.
Yeah. So most of my listeners know the name of my first book, Your Longevity Blueprint, where I compare aspects of your home to organ systems in your body, and I talk about building optimal health. So in that book, I compare your endocrine system to your home's heating and cooling system. And when functioning properly, the climate system maintains comfortable temperatures throughout your house. Similarly, your endocrine system regulates everything from metabolism to mood, energy, sleep, and of course, reproduction. We don't want to overlook that. So in this book, Your Fertility Blueprint, I expand on that metaphor to understand kind of specific ways your hormone climate control system affects your ability to conceive and maintain pregnancy. I'm kind of building on that initial analogy. So throughout this book, we examine kind of the various, again, climate control, we'll just say malfunctions in detail, kind of explaining how they affect fertility and most importantly, how to repair them to create the optimal environment for conception. So this book is your fertility blueprint. It's all about renovating your reproductive health.
I love that. So you are a functional medicine doctor. You've helped so many others overcome fertility challenges, and yet you personally struggled for over 10 years to have children. Tell me a little bit more about how that paradox shaped your perspective and your understanding about fertility.
Yeah, I certainly am not invincible. I think from the outside looking in, a lot of individuals may think, oh, she has, again, I do have access to many tools, but I think many people just assumed, as did I and my family, that I would not have any infertility struggles. And, infertility doesn't discriminate. As I mentioned in the book, irony was lost on me, right? No one is immune to these challenges. So talk about, rising infertility rates, like even, medical professionals like me, someone who has a hormone clinic can still run into problems. So, now that many women are waiting, as both of us did, kind of till later in life to conceive, gosh, I would say if you're a young person listening to this, take all the advice you can get your health in check now, renovate your reproductive health, build a healthier body now so that odds are more in your favor as you age. Because yeah, I was quite surprised at how many challenges I continued to run into.
I feel that the exact same way. You don't expect it to have happen to somebody that's who seems to be really healthy on the outside.
And all my patients, and I shouldn't say all, not everyone's story ends with the baby, but all throughout my process, I had so many patients get pregnant. And it's like it's just so hard. It's like you want to be so happy and you're saying thankful that they've conceived, but then you're wondering, what am I doing wrong? Right? That's the question
Yeah.
everyone's asking themselves. What am I not doing right? Like, uh, it's been tough.
So then take us back to the moment when you realized that conventional testing was missing key pieces of your fertility puzzle. What was that breakthrough like for you?
Yeah, I think I have to, it's so hard to go way back, now like Michael's almost a year and a half. So it's like for me to think back to all that I've been through. Like I do remember with William, my first son, I had after four IUIs, I, I just knew I'm like, we're missing something. Like I'm gonna have surgery or something. Like I knew there had to be more to my story. And so I had a laparoscopy. And I knew there was a chance at that time because I'd always had heavy, painful cycles that I had endometriosis. But again, I thought, this isn't me. Like this certainly isn't happening to me. But I will say conventional medicine, even back then, I will never forget, I knew my hormones were optimized. I have a hormone clinic for Pete's sakes. I know how to, measure ovulation. I never had any problems with ovulation, thank God. But the we'll just say reproductive endocrinology even wanted me to take Clomid back then. And I'm thinking, you got to be kidding me. They want to take me Clomid to help me ovulate when I don't have any problems ovulating. Like we need to look somewhere else for the problem. But they just say, this is our protocol. It'll swing odds in your favor. Just do it. And I disagreed. I mean, to functional medicine credit back then, I will say maybe partly why, although tons of endometriosis does go undetected, partly why mine maybe did go undetected is I had managed my health so well as far as I had changed my diet, as you had as well. I was gluten dairy free. I was on progesterone, fish oil, turmeric, magnesium, even castor oil packs. Like I had my symptoms under control, but I wasn't getting pregnant. So I needed further investigation. So, ultimately, I think I was disappointed at how heavily I had to advocate for myself, like to say, no, I don't need Clomid. But yes, I do need more exploratory surgery. Like, we need to figure this out. I was so scared to have surgery. Oh my gosh. I think I've had 10 surgeries since then. But at that time, I just thought, oh my gosh, this is happening to me. Like, I'm the one who has to have this laparoscopy. And sure enough, they did find stage 4 endometriosis. So I'm glad that I had it. Of course, wish I would have had the surgery sooner, but it was a breakthrough because I felt like I finally had answers. There was a reason to why I wasn't able to get pregnant.
So not only did you discover stage 4 endometriosis, but also some blood clotting factors. I think that was maybe after
That,
William.
yep,
And
yep, that was a
then,
baby too. Yep.
yep. And then also the chronic uterine infection. I recall that very clearly because you had talked about that for months. Like you were thinking about
Mhm.
that. So how common is it for conventional fertility workups to miss some of these root causes? Is it more common than we all think?
Yeah, I mean, I should clarify, I am not a reproductive endocrinologist and I'm not an OB-GYN either. Like I am a functional medicine provider, so I'm not here to discredit any other specialist. We need them. I needed them. I needed all of them. I needed all the help I could get. But I do think kind of once you get to the point of IVF, generally speaking, I don't think, how do I say this kindly? I don't think that at that point doctors really care like why you have infertility. Like I had unexplained infertility. No, at that point it was just like, this is the next step. Do you want to do it or not? Which I
Mhm.
did. I heeded their recommendations and I still couldn't get pregnant. So my true belief is I never needed IVF. I needed all these root causes, to be found. So I guess to answer your question, I think it's very common that these get overlooked because in essence, once you get to IVF, root cause no longer matters because they're trying to bypass all those root causes.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening with me, like, so yes, let me go back. So it was discovered I had stage 4 endometriosis with my first, right, with William, and I had a couple surgeries. My appendix was compromised. I remember they took that out as well. I had a second surgery to excise rather than just fry off all the endometriosis. They excised out the lesions because when you excise out the lesions, they're less likely to come back. They got all the scar tissue, whatnot. Um, so with my first child, endometriosis was the main, inhibiting variable. But with my second pregnancy, it took even longer to figure things out. So um, essentially, I explain this in my book also, and it's like, how much do I share? Because I want them to read the book. No, I'm just kidding. So, with my second child, I did go through IVF, and they say, from a statistics standpoint, if you have 3 chromosomally normal, so what we call euploid embryos, the chance of successful pregnancy is like 97%. And I had the numbers, I had the embryos, which a lot of women don't have. So I'm very thankful that I had that. So essentially, after I had so many embryos transferred, I should have already had like 2 babies by then, and I still didn't didn't have one. Um, After embryo transfer after transfer after transfer failed, right? And reproductive endocrinology was still telling me, let's, transfer more, transfer more. I'm thinking, I don't want to waste all those embryos. I literally remember telling the reproductive endocrinologist in a very kind way, what are we doing? Like the definition of ignorance is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. Like I knew there was more to my story. Like I didn't want to waste these embryos. I wanted to figure out why they weren't taking. So I'm a prime example. I'm trying to tie this back to your question of how often these variables get missed because a lot of times with IVF, you're told it's a numbers game. It's a numbers game. Get the numbers, implant the embryos, and it's eventually going to work. I exceeded the numbers like astronomically, and it wasn't working. So there was more to my story, which I did have this chronic endometritis. So, as you know, I had chorioamnionitis with my first son, which is a infection of the uterine lining, and my concern after having him was, will this impact future pregnancies? And I asked probably 10 different OB-GYNs through my healthcare entrepreneur group, different ones I had seen, and they all said, no, you're fine. You're fine. Women who have chorioamnionitis many times go on and have a healthy pregnancy. So I just assumed I will be fine. Well,
Mhm.
when I wasn't fine, I asked for a biopsy. I said, "Can you biopsy my tissue? I want to know if I have this low-grade uterine infection called endometritis, which can stem from from lots of things, from STDs, which I didn't have, from group B strep, but from chorioamnionitis. That's a big word to remember."
Yes.
So they
Yeah.
so they did a biopsy on me after several failed IVF transfers, and the biopsy was negative. And so I, for a short time being, put that hypothesis to rest. I said, okay, I must not have this infection. I am paranoid. This is not my problem. But in my head, this potential problem kept, resurfacing. And I would encourage listeners to follow your intuition, because my intuition was that there has to be there has to be something causing these embryos to not implant when they're chromosomally normal. So I actually did something that most patients probably won't. I requested a surgery. I said, I know you've done the biopsy and you're telling me that I don't have have this condition, but that biopsy was blind, right? So you have a procedure in office. They're blindly going up there and just biopsying tissue. They can't actually see like where they're biopsying, if that makes sense. So I had a surgery, and sure enough, within the surgery and the upper pole of my uterus, where they had been deploying all those embryos, I had this chronic low-grade infection that was not found on the initial biopsy. It's so hard to remember all this and think back to like everything I went through, because it was several years of just like trial and error and up and downs, with your emotions and your hormones, and like
Yes.
just trying to make progress and get answers. And I remember the doctors coming back and saying, "You're right. You were right. Like your intuition was right." And had I have backed down, I would have wasted future embryos. I never would have figured this out. Um, there's another way to know you have chronic endometritis for listeners is if you have tail end brown bleeding, which I also had and had talked to many doctors about. So at the finish of my cycle, I would have a little bit, not much, but a little bit of brown bleeding, which many doctors will say is just oxidized old blood. It's not a big deal. Well, sometimes it isn't a big deal, but sometimes it is a big deal. It's an indication that you do have this low-grade infection. So I took antibiotics, and they took care of some of it in the surgery, of course, and then I took antibiotics. I did some other things, which we might talk about in this interview, and then I got pregnant. So back to what was the question? Oh, yeah, that I
The
discovered.
root cause. The root cause,
Yes, yes.
like
I mean,
there's
today,
always a root cause to infertility. And I think
yes,
you
I
talk about that
pushed
in your book.
and pushed. And just for the listeners, just don't give up, because there, whether it's headaches or fatigue or infertility, there is a root cause. And if your doctor isn't helping you discover that, you need to find another doctor who will. So that was a very long answer, so maybe we'll just go to the next question.
That's
But
good.
hopefully
All right.
hopefully I answered that.
Well, the next question is a good one. Is the fertility crisis is real? It's real. Like I don't feel like 7 years ago, a lot of people were talking as much as they are about it
Yeah.
as they are now. So I'm hearing 1 in 6 couples struggle to conceive. Male fertility has declined by 50% over the
Hmm.
past 40 years, which is just mind blowing.
Hmm.
What do you think is driving this dramatic decline in fertility?
And I would say, I mean, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I feel like you and I both are healthy people, right? And we still struggled with infertility, right?
Yeah.
So yes,
Yes.
again, it doesn't discriminate. And yes, these, infertility rates are on the rise. So I want to restate what you just said. So yes, 1 in 6 couples worldwide now struggle with infertility, which is defined as inability to conceive after 1 year of trying by the World Health Organization. Female infertility has increased by 25% in the last 20 years. And you said, I think you said male fertility has declined by over 50%. Now think about that. If we said cancer rates went up 25%, everyone would be talking about it, right? But when it comes to infertility, suddenly it's like it doesn't matter. Not just that, but secondary infertility, which I certainly had, which is the inability to conceive after having one or more children, now accounts for 50% of infertility. And I can't help but wonder, yeah, again, because I had this low-grade infection, how many of these women had a complication from the first pregnancy that is now inhibiting their second? And we could go on and talk about all those things, but some of which are mentioned in my book. Miscarriage rates have also risen to affect 15 to 20% of known pregnancies, with recurrent pregnancy loss becoming increasingly common, which is very sad. And the average age of first conception has risen to 30 plus, which was, both of us and many developed countries, which also adds to, age-related fertility challenges, just adding that to the equation. Um, but if we want to go back to, I think, the question is, what's driving this decline? Um, I think our toxic world is absolutely driving this. So I think I'll break some of these down, but I think environmental factors, lifestyle changes, nutritional shifts, these all can contribute. And actually, I want to go back to more statistics because I forgot to mention that IVF success rates remain approximately like 25 to 30% per cycle for women under 35, and then they drop significantly with age. Yet more people than ever are now requiring these assisted reproductive technologies. So, as I kind of mentioned in my book, these are not just numbers. Like, again, even back to when I saw reproductive endocrinology, I feel like they always say it's a numbers game, it's a numbers game. But like, these aren't just numbers, these represent millions of individuals and couples that are experiencing grief, frustration, financial strain. Like, they're on this quest, which again took me 10 years to get two kids. Like, this is heartbreak. This is when I think of these statistics, it's like it's devastating. So, yes, it's a problem, and we do need to figure out why. So, in my opinion, I think we have kind of a perfect storm of why fertility is declining. So, environmental factors are huge, back to the toxic world that we live in. So, unprecedented exposure to endocrine disrupting chemicals, in our food, water, and everyday products contribute. Microplastics now detected in human blood, placenta, and reproductive tissues contribute. Heavy metal accumulation, which can affect hormone signaling. And if you've listened to my podcast at all, I'm big on electromagnetic field exposure. So, EMFs from our phones, I think this greatly can decline, especially to male factor issues. I also think, part of my problem was probably chronic stress. So back to first, I mentioned environmental factors. Next is more lifestyle factors. So I think chronic stress levels are at historic highs. Those are directly impacting our hormone production. Sleep disruption, circadian rhythm dysfunction affect our fertility hormones. Our sedentary lifestyles can impact metabolism and hormone balance. And then I already mentioned delayed childbearing. As more couples are prioritizing kind of career and financial stability before having children can contribute. And I think another big one is nutritional shifts. So processed food diets, right, lack key nutrients needed for optimization, specifically for egg quality. I talk so much about egg quality in this book. So soil depletion results in foods with fewer minerals, vitamins, antioxidants, and our gut microbiome disruption from antibiotics and food additives and birth control and stress also contributes. Inflammatory dietary patterns compromise reproductive tissue function. Having an inflamed uterus, as we'll probably talk about more in this podcast, can compromise how the embryo is going to implant into that lining. And there are rising rates of undiagnosed medical conditions like, I'll just say, low progesterone, low thyroid, increased, endometriosis, PCOS. All of these things can contribute. Someone could write a book just on that why, but in my opinion, I think those are the main variables that have caused fertility rates to decline.
Many people think of functional medicine and conventional fertility treatments as opposing approaches. I'm curious how you feel about that relationship. Can they work together?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Regardless of if we're treating blood pressure, acne, fertility, like, I just wish conventional medicine didn't see functional medicine as competition. I think research will show when we combine conventional with functional medicine, which then we kind of call integrated medicine, right? That's going to result in the best outcomes for any condition. So I think they should be used together. I truly believe they complement each other. They provide the patient with the best of all kind of worlds combined. And I needed both. I think many couples need both, and they would have better outcomes with both.
I would say that my success story with my first child is a mixture of conventional and functional medicine. Like, I was able to conceive because I used both.
Yes, yes.
So
Thank
I
you
will
for sharing.
second that emotion. All right. Well, in your book, you talk about treating the whole system, not just the reproductive organs. What does that look like in practice?
Probably sounds like I'm repeating myself a lot here, but kind of the same thing as if someone had a headache. Like, we want to look for the origin rather than, just treat the headache with the pain medication. Let's assess what someone might be eating that's causing the headache. The same thing with fertility. And maybe I'll just, go back to the point I was saying on the uterine environment. If the uterine environment is inflamed, again, the embryo can't implant, which is why we recommend patients who are trying to conceive go on an anti-inflammatory diet, right? Reduce that total body, inflammatory burden. So the gut is essentially touching the uterus, right? So I had a podcast guest, Dr. Tabitha Barber. She's OB-GYN. I interviewed her recently, and she shared it when she's doing surgery. She's like, we're literally picking up the intestines off the uterus, like they're touching the uterus. Sometimes they're even so inflamed, they're scarred together, right? But yet we treat those systems differently. When you have GI issues, you go see, a GI, and when you have uterine issues, you go see OB-GYN. But why are we not recognizing that they're connected? They're literally sitting on top of each other, and thus inflammation in the gut or disruption of the, microbiome health will impact the uterine health or the vaginal health, right? So we do need to see the body, and we need to address fertility as a, whole system, more as a, I'll just say from a holistic perspective, than just treat, one organ system, just the reproductive system separately. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So I'm going to switch it up here really quick. I'd like to know, for somebody who has been told their only option is donor eggs, or who's been advised, to just accept this situation, what message of hope would you offer?
So this is a tough one because without knowing their age, like if you're 50 years old, you might need donor eggs, just to, be clear. But if you're 40 years old, there is hope. You may not need donor eggs. So I've had lots of patients come to see me late 30s, early 40s, and we heavily focused on three things, but primarily in the aging woman, we want to focus on egg quality. So I have seen many patients with time be able to improve their egg quality and not have to use donor eggs. So there is hope it can be done. I have protocols for that in this book. You need loads of antioxidants. I mean, those are extremely important for your mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell. So it can be done. There is hope. Again, we have to be realistic. Like if you're 50 versus 40, there's a little difference there. But many women are their late 30s, early 40s trying to conceive, and it can be done. That was me. That was literally me. Yeah.
Right. So, you dramatically improved your IVF results between
Mhm.
cycles. You went from 33% to 56% euploid embryos. What changed? What
Yeah.
does that say about the power of
Yeah.
optimization?
So again, I was very fortunate. So I started with good numbers. So for a woman of my age going through IVF, they basically told me if you have a 33% euploid rate, that's excellent. Meaning, out of three embryos that were created, if one was normal, I was in good shape. And that's why they say it's a numbers game, right? Because you're only going to implant one of those three. You have to start with a lot of eggs and a lot of sperm to get to the point where you have this high quality embryo. But between my first and my second cycle of IVF, my rate of euploidy, whatever, chromosomally normal embryos went from 33 to 56%. 56% for my age is unheard of. I mean, that is amazing. Thank God for that, because I needed a lot to figure out what the problem was. But essentially, what I think made it the biggest difference with me were two things, and I share this in the book. One, my husband has gallbladder removed. So I think he was a pretty sick puppy for a while there. And so I can't help but wonder if, he wasn't producing super high quality sperm when his gallbladder was literally dying inside him. So he was in much healthier shape for round two. But with me, um, I really, really focused on antioxidants, and I took C60, which I talk a lot about in the book. I am convinced C60 was a game changer, and I have a whole podcast on C60, but essentially the protocols in this book are designed to create optimal internal environment for egg and sperm development, reducing oxidative damage that can lead to chromosomal abnormalities that lead to either not getting pregnant or to miscarrying. So the preparation phase, which I focused on, is super crucial. So think about this. The eggs you ovulate this month began their development 100 days ago, and the eggs you ovulate 3 months from now are developing right now. So you have the power to influence their quality by the choices you make, the antioxidants you take, right? Like now. And so I loaded up on antioxidants and CoQ10, and I think that made a huge difference in my egg quality. And the research on egg quality improvement is very encouraging. So studies in general show, back to antioxidants, just specifically taking antioxidants, That can improve fertilization rates in IVF 20 to 30%, increase blastocyst formation, can enhance even natural conception rates in women over 35, and can reduce miscarriage rates, again, by supporting chromosomal integrity. So when I say antioxidants, I'm assuming the listeners just know, but maybe I should clarify. So eat the rainbow. Dark pigmented fruits and vegetables are loaded in antioxidants. You can take coenzyme Q10, alpha lipoic acid, N-acetylcysteine, resveratrol. Everybody knows vitamin C, vitamin E, PQQ. All of those have shown benefit for improving egg quality.
So again, just that emphasis on
On
the 100-day window for egg and sperm development, like how
yes,
important that is.
yes, yes. Thank you for bringing that full circle.
Tell me, what are some of the biggest environmental threats to fertility that most people, men and women, don't even realize they're exposed to?
I really think EMFs, which again, I talk so much about this on the podcast, but I don't think we realize how important it is for fertility. So if you're specifically men, if you're carrying your cell phone near your groin, or even ladies, if you're carrying it on your, waistband or in your purse or anywhere near your pelvic organs, this is oxidative damage. So I just said antioxidants improve egg quality, right? Oxidative damage is going to damage egg and sperm quality. So you've got to get this phone, got to get that, EMF, that radiation away from your pelvic organs. I would say turn off your Wi-Fi at night, create a sleep sanctuary where you have, less exposure to radiation for many hours over the night. That's very important. So I guess my answer is toxins, but there are different toxins. So there are electromagnetic frequency toxins, which are invisible, but another invisible toxin is mold. I have had lots of patients who have had PCOS, who have had premature ovarian failure, even males who have been impacted have very low testosterone, which you need testosterone to make sperm because of mold toxicity. So mold is also kind of an invisible toxin that can impact fertility. And plastics. Plastics are everywhere and they could certainly impact and disrupt our hormones too.
Let's talk about some of your patients. Can you share a success story that really illustrates how addressing root causes can transform a fertility outcome?
We've had so many over the years. I'll start with some easy ones. So, and I literally just say this in the book, like I can't tell you how many women all I did for them, because not everybody buys in and wants to do everything that I want them to do. But some patients, I remember very early on in my practice, ran food sensitivity testing, and the patient, avoided eggs and she got pregnant. Like she just needed to get off an inflammatory food for her, which many people think eggs are healthy, which they are for some people, but they weren't for her, and she got pregnant. Sometimes it's just a matter of, taking something away that your body doesn't want, or for many patients, all I did was optimize thyroid, give them some T3 or give them progesterone, and suddenly they're not miscarrying. Suddenly, they're carrying this baby to term. So just optimizing hormones and reducing inflammation is crucial. Obviously, getting toxins out of the body and loading them up on nutrients to support egg quality is important too. So I think one success story that I didn't share on the podcast earlier, because I did have some success stories I shared at the end of season 5. One of those, actually, I'll mention right now, was a woman who had mold toxicity, who had premature ovarian failure in her 30s, and we were able to detox her, and she got her cycles back, and she got pregnant, which I just love hearing those stories. But one woman I had asked to come on that episode, and fertility is a vulnerable topic, and she wasn't ready to quite share her story yet. And of course, I'm not going to mention her name, but she ended up we actually conceived about the same time, and she was actually older than me in her 40s. And she did the basics. I mean, we did a nutritional analysis on her. We optimized her egg quality. She took the time to do that. That back to that 100-day window, right? She took the time to do that. She took the time to eat healthy. We had her on progesterone, and she conceived naturally in her essentially like early mid 40s. So, and that was so exciting to me because, I was also, I shouldn't say more aged, but 40 at the time. And I knew behind the scenes that we were both pregnant at the same time. And it's just, we've been able to, introduce our little boys to each other. And it's just been an exciting story for us both to have. So there have just been so many of these cases, but she was willing to put in the time, even that late in the game in her 40s. She didn't rush to it. She didn't rush to IVF. She took the time to implement some of these functional medicine principles, and it paid off for her.
Yeah, that's incredible. You've also discovered that seed oils are hidden egg and sperm quality destroyers. Can you explain that connection and why it is so often overlooked? I'm really excited to hear this answer because seed oils are everywhere.
They
I,
are. They are my biggest weakness. So we are obviously listeners, Ashley and I are very good friends. We both have little boys named William that are good friends. Eric went on a seed oil free challenge and we went over to dinner at Ashley's house and she even had seed oil free chips for us. So Eric
I
could
did. I
maintain
did.
his seed oil free diet. It's hard. It's hard because they're everywhere. But let me tell you why they're so bad, and then you can decide if it's worth getting them out of your life. So many things that I've mentioned throughout this podcast, that damage your chances of fertility are inflammation and oxidative damage. And seed oils essentially cause both of those things. So they're super inflammatory, they're highly processed, and so they essentially create widespread oxidative damage that specifically target our delicate cellular components essential for reproduction, particularly the mitochondria that I previously mentioned are so, important in eggs and sperm. So they are inflammatory. They also damage our cell membranes. And when I say they're damaging, they produce this oxidative stress or oxidative damage that now we need to take all these antioxidants to combat. So you're going to be less dependent on taking all these antioxidants if you can get the oxidative, um, well, we'll say inflammatory seed oils out of your life. So primary offenders here, if you don't know what seed oils are, soybean oil, which is most common in processed foods, canola oil, corn oil, sunflower oil, safflower oil, cottonseed oil, rapeseed oil, and rice bran oil. So, even in veggie straws, which you think, oh, these are vegetables, they're healthy for our kids. Like they're fried in seed oil. Like seed oils are in salad dressings. They're literally everywhere. They're they are my weakness because I'm more of a salty chip person than a sweet person. So
Me
hidden
too.
hidden sources to watch for me at least are the salad dressings, mayonnaise, obviously when you're eating out, fried foods, packaged snacks and crackers. I've even seen nut packs, like nuts and seeds that are roasted in seed oil. So you think you're getting this like gluten-free, dairy-free, high protein, healthy fat snack, and then it's like cooked in seed oils. Some protein bars have seed oils, and a lot of conventional cooking sprays obviously are going to be made out of these seed oils. So, what you want to opt for are animal-based fats, which are excellent for high heat cooking. So, grass-fed beef tallow, we do tons of that at our house, which is rich in fat-soluble vitamins and it's extremely stable at high temps. Grass-fed butter and ghee, which has lots of fertility-supporting compounds in it. You can do pastured lard, which is also high in vitamin D, or duck fat. So those are what I recommend instead of seed oils. And then if you have to have like a plant-based alternative, obviously olive oil is great, not cooking at high temps, but at low temps and good for salad dressings. Avocado oil does have a high smoke point, so that's suitable for more high heat cooking. Coconut oil and MCT oil. But I will admit this is a hard one for me.
It's kind of a situation of the more you know. And
I
then you
know.
figure out it's like when you love to go to a restaurant and eat all the chips and salsa and knowing that, like, how are
I
those
know.
chips cooked? And
But if you do that once a month, listeners, that's okay. Like, it's impossible to be perfect 100% of the time. It just is. Like, eating out once a month is not going to kill your fertility. Let's be very clear, right? But you don't want to be having seed oils 3 meals a day. Like, there's a difference, in that.
yeah. And with as many things as you just discussed that the seed oils are in, I mean, just taking a closer look at those food labels is probably, I mean, that's a good first step at cutting
Yes.
some of them out. You talk about how the nervous system needs to feel safe in order to conceive. To me, it's a very fascinating concept. How exactly does stress shut down reproduction?
So I've been saying this for years that stress is our biggest hormone hijacker. So it's robbing you of the hormones you need for fertility. In the book, with the breaking down the comparison a little more, I say that estradiol is the electrical system of your fertility home, and progesterone is more the protective insulation, kind of ensuring safety, preventing short circuits, and enabling the power to flow properly through that structure. Progesterone means progestation. It's literally the hormone that makes pregnancy possible. The more stressed you are, the higher your cortisol is, and the lower your progesterone is. which you want flipped. You want low cortisol, high progesterone for pregnancy. So one of the best things you can do in preparation for conception and pregnancy is to get that stress in check.
Okay. When patients are preparing for IVF, how are you advising them to prepare their bodies functionally in advance?
So I have specific protocols for this in the book. And again, I mean, I should say there's no difference, right? Because when you want to get pregnant, like if that's your goal, you need to be doing all of these things. But with IVF, we're on a timeline. So, and again, to get great embryos, it's all about egg and sperm quality. And there's usually a reason couples are at this point, right? Maybe they don't have good egg and sperm quality. And so these couples, both male and female, need egg and sperm quality enhancement protocols ahead of IVF. And then the females need to improve the gut vaginal microbiome and reduce inflammation for proper implantation.
So, at what point would you recommend moving from natural optimization to medical intervention? And how are you helping couples make that decision?
And that's hard. I mean, some of my patients, they tell me from the very beginning, I would never do IVF. I'll do what you say, but I you were
That was
there. Yeah.
me.
Oh, I
Yeah.
assumed I would never need it also. Yeah. But typically the answer is, after 1 year of trying, if we're not getting anywhere, right, then yes, then we're going to pursue, more aggressive medical intervention. But you can also see a reproductive endocrinologist, as I mentioned in the book, if you're over 35 and maybe you haven't been trying for a year, but maybe 6 months, or if you're over 40, I think it's definitely worth, seeing them. And if you have known structural issues like blocked tubes, if you know you've had severe endometriosis, if you had history of recurrent pregnancy loss, if there's a major male factor infertility, issue. And then, of course, if time is of very significant concern, like what maybe you're 43, like, so that's always such a personal choice because some patients will not choose to go the route of more significant medical intervention, but that's kind of how I gauge that with the,
Sure.
yeah.
This might feel like a redundant question, but can functional medicine approaches actually enhance the success rates of conventional fertility treatments like IVF? I know you talked about
100%,
what, yeah,
100%. Yes, study after study shows this, not just for fertility, for for lots of different conditions. But I am perfect. I mean, both of us are examples of that. So 100%, yes.
you write about how birth trauma can affect future fertility. And this is a very personal and vulnerable, but a lot of women don't connect those dots.
Hmm.
How does unresolved trauma play into the conception challenges?
Okay, so this is kind of similar to a past question on stress, that your body needs to feel safe, right, to be able to conceive. So if for instance, you almost die in labor, like I had postpartum hemorrhage, right? May not be easy to get over that birth trauma so that your body is ready to conceive again. And I do think that was part of my problem. I mean, I did so many things to try to conceive, and one of them is I did one thing that I did was I went to a practitioner who had me work past and through that trauma. We kind of took me back to that moment, and kind of tried to rewire my brain so that I could get to a point where my body was feeling like it's safe enough to conceive again. And we talk a lot more about this on a prior episode that's launching before this episode with Dr. Amy Apigian. It launches in September, all about how trauma is real. And she has worked with a lot of patients on this, ahead of time, and then they are able to conceive. So if you had birth trauma and you're listening, don't underestimate the importance of kind of working through that, to optimize your success rate with consecutive pregnancies.
This dovetails into this conversation, right? We talk about this birth trauma and removing the block, maybe emotional blocks, but
Yes, yes.
faith played a significant role in your own fertility journey. And I'm curious how do you help patients navigate the spiritual dimensions
Mhm.
of fertility struggles as a doctor?
It's very tough. It's very tough. A lot of times I do know my patients, so I kind of know if they have faith, and certainly I'm always asking if they have faith and if they have a good support system. Um, I'm immensely blessed to have parents with strong faith and godparents and family and friends, who have prayed over Eric and I through the years. And, you know, believe me, there was a time where I felt like multiple times where Eric and I felt like giving up. that's why we had prayer warriors. That's why you have people who can pray over you when you can't pray over yourself. And so, that is something that I ask patients. I know a lot of doctors don't talk about faith with their patients, but if it, kind of comes up in the conversation, I think that is something that's extremely important that they have that hope. And there are even Bible verses that I can give to patients or affirmations that they can speak over themselves. My mother, just so blessed. She again has just prayed for me my entire life. Been so blessed. But she reminded me to pray for things like well, a revelation that we could figure out what the heck was blocking my ability to conceive. But she even gave me flashcards and, Bible verses to again read over myself. Things like my uterus is strong and healthy. My body is ready to carry this baby. And I know you've been great with this too, Ashley. That's something that you've always focused on too, which is so important. I think if I didn't have faith, I would have given up long before finding the answers I needed. But the struggle here is that I think it's natural to get mad at God, when you're not conceiving and you feel like you're doing the things right, right? You're wondering, why me? Why me? But I kept telling myself, and this is something that I try to tell patients too, that there's a story that's going to come out of this. Like everything is in his timing. I prayed for patience and patience and patience for myself over and over again because you just feel like it's not fair. And so I just try to encourage my patients the best I can, I guess in that regard, with faith to not give up and have patience and know that, if God created the world, he created the universe and everything in it, somehow he has a better timeline than I have. So I guess I better trust. Not I guess, I have to trust his timing.
Yeah, patience is key. I'll never forget, I wasn't even going to say this, and you can edit out however you want, but one of the things that you and I talked about when you were very early pregnant, I had given up. And I came to you and I said,
Yeah.
I think I've given up. And I think I'm just going to be the fun aunt. My husband's going to be the fun uncle. And like, we're good, we're fine. And, but I knew that there was something I knew I was unfulfilled. There was something that was
You still
missing.
had the desire.
I
Yes.
had the
Yes. Yes.
desire. Yes. And I feel like so many women do, and you feel alone and you feel like, why me? And that is why this book is so critically important. You are not alone. There are people out there that will pray over you, that will pray with you, and that will help you. Like healing and wellness is waiting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you were one of those prayer warriors for me. I'll never forget that. And you were also somebody that told me when I entered into the in vitro program, you said, you should tell your family. You should share this with your family because I was so embarrassed. I said, I'll
Yeah.
never do this. You should
Yeah.
share with your family what you're doing because you need those people to be in your corner and to be wanting this baby
Mm-hmm.
with you.
Mm-hmm.
Put that out to the universe. And so it might seem cheesy to say, but putting that to the universe and allowing the right people into your life and into your story was incredibly impactful for me.
Oh, I love hearing that. Oh, and I just love, for the listeners, it may seem easy for us to have this conversation because we're on the other end of it. We did have babies. We did get there, but we're in our 40s. Like we are not in our 20s. This did not happen easily. Like we had to go through hell and high
Yeah.
water to
Yes.
get there. But we both, I know we speak for both of us when we say it was so worth it, just so worth it. So don't give up hope and you do surround yourself with support. I I want to go to IVF actually still on the faith topic because I know a lot of my listeners, they're going to find out for the first time when they read my book and they listen to this that I did IVF and they're going to think this Christian woman like did IVF like what the heck, And I want to talk about this elephant in the room IVF because there are clearly different opinions in this. Like, many Christians do believe that IVF is playing God and I will say for some of my friends who feel that way, again, I have to delicately say this, they never had problems conceiving. So it's hard to say what you wouldn't do until you're in someone's shoes. Like both of us, we got to the point
Yes.
where, yep, we are considering it. Do I believe I needed it? No, I really do think I had endometritis that I needed antibiotics for, and I had some blood clotting issues that needed to be dealt with, and I did lots of other things to deal with the birth trauma and stress and right. But let me go to IVF for a second. So the decision to pursue IVF often brings unexpected spiritual considerations that many couples never anticipate facing. So if you have a strong faith background, again, the technology can initially feel like you're overstepping divine boundaries, you're playing God with the creation of life. And this internal conflict is deeply personal and completely understandable because I never imagined considering this. I found myself grappling, with those questions, but I also was grappling with, am I going to be able to have a baby here or not, right? So the journey forced me to kind of re-examine my understanding of this kind of divine providence and medical intervention. And I talk about this a lot in the book, but I want to say a couple more things on this. So here's how I came to my decision on, pursuing IVF. So I was reminded of the parable of the man in the flood, who refused multiple rescue attempts. If you've heard this, you know, like one of the guys on the boat saying, nope, God will save me, God will save me, only to discover in the end that God had sent him exactly the help he needed that he had continued to refuse, right? So,
Yes.
so the perspective kind of transformed how I felt about fertility treatments, right? So millions of people rely on conventional medicine for mood disorders, digestive issues, chronic pain, cancer, right? I mean, we don't think insulin or chemotherapy is, like a bad thing, but then we view infertility treatments sometimes not as blessings or not as medical knowledge and skill when they are. And so how I ultimately boiled down to my decision was, regardless of the method, whether you natural conception, medical assistance, or advanced reproductive technology, I believe only God creates life. That is what I stand on that, the spark that transforms cells into a living being, that divine mystery, like no one can create that. I really do feel like God creates life. And so IVF and other fertility treatments can provide the opportunity, but the miracle of life in the uterus, when that embryo is implanted, remains in higher hands. And so that's my stance on IVF. And yes, I used it. So for many couples, these medical tools can become unanswered, well, no, answered prayers. Now they're answered prayers, allowing families to form that might not otherwise exist. So I just wanted to share my stance on that because I know a lot of my listeners are going to think, oh my gosh, this woman did IVF. Yes, I was desperate, and yes, I prayed on it, and yes, I had a lot of time to consider this decision, and that's my answer. And you can add to that if you want, Ashley.
No, I mean, I think you covered it. I think you covered it perfectly. It is a very personal journey, and you, as a woman of faith, you don't know what what roads you'll cross until you're at the crossroads.
Hmm.
Wow, was that? I mean, I don't know
Perfect.
if that
Yep. Well
was
said.
like prophetic, but to be honest, I said I would never do it. And I never wanted to tell anybody that
Mhm.
that I was doing it. And
Yes.
finally, when we shared with each of our families, like we just want you to know this,
Yes.
that we are going to do in vitro. And every person was so incredibly supportive. I couldn't share exactly what we were going through at each moment. I just thought, and let me just put this out to each
Yes. Yeah.
person.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is what we're doing. And is there anything else that you want to share about ancient fertility journeys? Anything that you want to share for couples today?
Yeah, I mean, my mother reminded me heavily of this too, that the struggle with fertility is as old as humanity itself. I mean, the Bible has several profound stories of women whose fertility journeys offer timeless wisdom and comfort. So I'll just remind our listeners, Sarah, Abraham's wife, she laughed when she was told she would bear a child in her 90s, yet her story became one of the most miraculous, fulfillment stories despite her advanced age. Rachel cried out, "Give me children or I will die," expressing just anguish that many women still feel today before conceiving Joseph. Hannah prayed so fervently for a child she was mistaken for being drunk, right? Her lips moving silently in a desperate prayer, a prayer that ultimately was answered with the birth of Samuel, whom she dedicated to God in gratitude. And Elizabeth, the mother of John the Baptist, I mean, these are big names in the Bible, and their mothers struggled with infertility, right? Elizabeth endured years of what the Bible calls barrenness and the accompanying social shame only to also conceive in her older years. So, I mean, they're there. I mean, these women's journeys reveal several spiritual principles relevant to fertility today. So, the importance, which we've talked about today, of persistent hope, even when circumstances seem impossible, the power of honest emotional expression, the value of prayer and faith, during waiting periods, and the understanding that fertility journeys oftentimes are beyond our control. So, what's particularly striking about these biblical accounts is that they don't just gloss over, the emotions and the spiritual struggles that women face. They acknowledge these women had anger and jealousy and grief and questioning. That is totally normal when you're in this situation.
Yes.
They sometimes took matters into their own hands before surrendering to a higher plan. And importantly, their worth and purpose were ultimately affirmed regardless of their reproductive status, which is a powerful reminder for those on similar journeys today. So, These ancient stories remind us that while our scientific understanding of fertility has advanced clearly since Bible times, the emotional and spiritual dimensions of creating life, remain remarkably consistent across millennia. So they offer sacred connection to countless generations of women who have walked similar paths before us, creating a sense of, this is just from my book, right? Timeless community around this experience that can often feel so isolating in this modern world.
And you're working with patients during one of the most emotionally challenging seasons of life.
Mhm.
How are you helping your patients find meaning and purpose in the waiting and the uncertainty?
This is so hard. Back to trust and patience and faith, if they have faith. I mean, as a provider, I'm always checking the boxes. If this doesn't work, go on to the next thing. And which that's part of it, feeling like you're doing something, but also trusting and believing in timing at the same time. I want to go back to what I said before. Again, I think uh, I do believe this. If God, not if, I believe God created the earth and everything in it. So again, He knows best timing for everyone to conceive. So it's tough, but I just tell patients it's helpful that I can speak from experience and say this didn't happen overnight for me. Like basically both kids, took 5 years. Like my kids are five, almost, 6, well, 5 years apart. So, it is hard, but I do say enjoy the season because every season's different and every what I'm going to say this at the end of the show too, but every what feels like a failure is usually learning something, learning how we can pivot and go another direction, to make more progress.
For someone who's listening, who's been trying to conceive for 6 months, no success, what are the first three things you would suggest that they do?
So anyone can have a full thyroid panel checked. So not just TSH, but free T4, free T3. Remember, I mentioned a lot of women have low T3 and they can't conceive. So get a full thyroid panel checked, get a progesterone level checked, luteal phase of your cycle. If your cycle is 28 days, have it checked one of days 19, 20, or 21, which is 1 week after ovulation. We want to see how high that progesterone's rising. Another thing they can do is assess their cervical mucus. This is often overlooked, and I feel like conventional medicine doesn't even care about cervical mucus. So, cervical mucus is one of the best predictors of fertility. You have to have a good cervical mucus. Think about it, for the egg and the sperm to meet. So, if you don't have cervical mucus, that's a problem. So, really be assessing for that, which maybe some listeners haven't even heard of. And then for the male, get a not just a sperm analysis, but you can get a DNA fragmentation check essentially. So those are the things I would do if, after those are kind of the basic things I would do if they haven't been done after 6 months.
What about a couple that's on a budget, they can't afford comprehensive functional testing? What are some impactful changes you think that they can make on their own?
Back to diet. I mean, reduce inflammation in the diet. So, yes, get the seed oils out. Usually it's gluten, dairy, sugar, processed foods, get those out. And then what you want to get in, right, are wholesome foods loaded with antioxidants. Eat the rainbow again, deep pigmented fruits and vegetables, get your greens. Um, Back to what we can get out, we can get toxins out of the body. So, try to clean up your water, your air, reduce EMFs. I mean, sometimes these minor changes are all it takes to be able to conceive. And those are, for the most part, I mean, you have to buy a water filter, but for the most part, free.
Yeah,
Hmm.
easy changes to your lifestyle. So you work with patients that are both trying to conceive naturally and also going through IVF. How do your protocols differ between these two paths?
So they shouldn't really differ, although the timeline is different. So if you're, you're doing IVF and you know when your, eggs are going to be harvested and when your embryo transfer is going to be, we're on a strict timeline. There is no dilly-dallying here, right? So this is really important for men and for women as far as if a male is using like a sauna every day, that heat's going to destroy his sperm. That's going to impact, their IVF outcomes. So, essentially, if someone's pursuing IVF, we're on a timeline. There's no dilly-dallying. We got to get to it.
Mhm. All right, tell me what's been the most surprising discovery in your years of working with fertility patients from a functional medicine perspective?
Gosh, I think maybe this shouldn't be surprising, but I guess it kind of is surprising. And that my answer is how many patients are just all in. Like, there's a reason they're coming to see me. They've tried other things. They are just basically saying, tell me what to do and I'm going to do it. I will do whatever test you want. Yes, I will not sleep with my cell phone, near my head, whatever. Like, I'll do whatever you want me to do. So I think that's been surprising, but I think that patients have an intuition that they know there's a root cause. They know they need to be exploring functional medicine and they go all in.
This journey can be an emotional roller coaster. And we've talked about how emotional it is. And I'm curious how you help your patients stay emotionally grounded while still doing the hard work of physical
Mhm.
optimization.
This is so hard. I mean, having gone through, I don't even remember, yeah, 6 or 7, whatever, IVF transfers, like when you're on hormones, preparing for a transfer, right? Your estrogen level goes to like 1,000 and then it crashes after when it fails. It's kind of like, postpartum when your hormones, go up and down. Um, so I mean, I had years where I'm working and my hormones are going up and down all over the place every couple months. Like it is so hard to navigate the emotional side of things. And I think I shouldn't say the only answer to that, but the best answer to that is something we've already said, that it's just important to surround yourself with support. Like me even just telling my husband, like, I'm super emotional today because my estrogen's, 1,000 or, whatever. Like just him knowing where I'm at is helpful. But also there are lots of therapists out there who focus on fertility. And so sometimes you just need someone outside your family to confide in and talk to. So don't go this alone. Definitely surround yourself with support. And, it'd be great if you could surround yourself with people who have gone this path. But don't, not get extra help. If you need to speak with a therapist that focuses on infertility, whatnot, please do. Like get the help you need because it's just going to be easier not going this alone.
Yeah. Your book, Your Fertility Blueprint, comes out on Tuesday, November 25th. I know we're all marking our calendars for that. Beyond just conception techniques, what do you hope your readers take from it?
Yeah, I mean, just like how recommendations in Your Longevity Blueprint, my first book, apply to really any health condition, right? The tips in Your Fertility Blueprint do the same. So whether you want to get pregnant or not, whether you don't want to get diabetes or dementia, whatnot, the tips in this book are literally just generally speaking great advice from an aging standpoint too. Just like I was saying, reduce your inflammatory burden and minimize oxidative stress. Like that's going to not just help someone get pregnant, but it's going to help them literally not get dementia. So, so I want listeners to kind of take, I guess that from the book that, IVF doesn't get you healthy. Like IVF can get you pregnant, but it's never going to make you healthier, right? Tips in this book should do both. They should help you get pregnant and help you get healthier.
Yeah. So you're offering exclusive bonuses for people who pre-order the book. Can you tell us a little bit more about those and why pre-ordering matters?
Yes. So you can pre-order the book now on our website. Well, actually, we have a new website, yourfertilityblueprint.com, or on Amazon. And then I do want you to go to fertility. If you order on Amazon, go to yourfertilityblueprint.com and you can input your order number and then you can download some beautiful free resources. So the book already comes with a fertility blueprint checklist, which will also be on the site, but along with testing resources, fertility supplement protocols, fertility meal plan, and a fertility renovation timeline. So definitely get those free bonuses.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. So for somebody that's listening right now, they see themselves in your story, in my story, any of these patient success stories, what would you say to encourage them to take that next step?
Would say don't give up. Consider that no one knows everything. I don't know everything. My reproductive endocrinologist didn't know everything, right? Your doctor could have missed something. So I promise in this book, I talk about so many things that may not have ever been mentioned to you. So please, please don't give up.
So important. Yeah, have faith, have hope, don't give up.
Yes, yes.
If you could change just one thing about how fertility challenges are addressed in today's healthcare system, what would it be?
I mean, I think back to what we said earlier. Like, I wish we would all recognize the benefit of combining functional medicine with conventional medicine. Well, and having it be covered by insurance, that would be great. But of course, I want to find the root cause, which is more the functional medicine approach. But I think if we could really change how fertility is managed and addressed in healthcare, if we can combine functional medicine with conventional medicine, we're going to have better outcomes.
And finally, what's your message to the woman listening who feels like she has done everything, she has gone down every path, she's ready to give up on her dream of becoming a
Mhm.
mother?
I've been there. Like it absolutely stinks to struggle to not know the future. And I share some of my own stories in the book. I've shared some of this on social media. We had an early loss after, I don't even remember, after it was, I think, in the first round of IVF, and it was Mother's Day. And, I'm at church and Eric flags me in to, sit by him. I don't know, I'd gotten something to drink or whatever. And of course, we're sitting behind a family that had like 10 kids and it's Mother's Day. And I literally just had early pregnancy loss and I'm sitting behind this whole family of children. And it's just like heartbreaking and you're angry inside and you're resentful and you want to have joy for them. Like we need more, well, I'm obviously Christian, so I love seeing big Christian families. Like we need more good people, in this world. But it stinks to be the one struggling and to not know the future. And so I say that to say my heart has been broken. There have been so many times I wanted to give up, but I'm telling you, the prize is worth the wait and you can get there. So
Yeah.
back to just have hope, follow your intuition. Yes, I mean, I maybe I'll just go into some of the lessons that only struggle can teach that I mentioned in the book. So, through those 10 years of struggle, that truly made me become a better provider. I'm now more compassionate, and I learned that knowledge alone isn't enough, right? Having all the right knowledge doesn't guarantee the outcome you want. Sometimes God and your body have their own timeline that doesn't match our expectations and desires. Persistence matters more than perfection. I tried interventions that didn't work, and I had to pivot and try, new approaches many times, but I never gave up, believing that God had children for Eric and I. And then also, faith and science aren't opposites, they're partners. So I do believe that my faith sustained me through the disappointments. Now, medical knowledge can guide your decisions, but I think we need both to navigate the journey. And every setback taught me something valuable. So, and I said this before already in the interview, but the failed IUIs, taught me something. The endometriosis diagnosis taught me something. I ended up finding some blood clotting issues that taught me something else. So, the journey is going to change you in ways that, you know, we'll say the destination never could. But, by the time I held my sons, I was a completely different person, stronger, more empathetic, more grateful, and more equipped to helping others face similar struggles, and you can be too. So I want you to remember that after walking this path, personally and professionally, here are the most important truths, I guess, that I want to leave you with. Sorry, this interview is a little kind of all over the place, but I think we're leaving you with some great nuggets. So trust your intuition. It is often your first and best guide. I knew something wasn't right several times in my journey, and that there was a root cause for IVF failing, and following that instinct led me to the answers that changed everything. Your struggles don't define you, your persistence does. Every month that doesn't result in a pregnancy isn't a failure, it's information. Every treatment doesn't work isn't a dead end, it's redirection towards what will work. Trust your instincts. If something doesn't feel right in your body, keep investigating. If a provider dismisses your concerns, find another provider. You know your body better than anyone else. Address your whole system, not just your symptoms. Functional medicine approach in this book works because it recognizes that fertility is an expression of total body health, not just reproductive organ function. We've said this a lot. Don't walk this journey alone. Whether it's your partner, family, friends, support groups, or healthcare providers, surround yourself with people who believe in your dream and will support you through difficult times. And hold on to hope. But here's the hardest part: release control, right? Do everything you can to optimize your health and fertility, but trust that the outcome will unfold as it's meant to. Sometimes the letting go is what allows that miracle to happen.
This is so powerful. And I wish that I had been able to listen to this 10 years
Oh,
ago, 8 years
yes.
ago, 7 years ago. The just talking it out loud is so important. I can't thank you enough for like sharing your story and sharing your expertise. I think this book is just an incredible resource and is going to be an incredible resource for many women, men and women. So this has been incredible. Anything else that you want to share with your listeners?
I hope we've emphasized this today that if you're listening, regardless of your age, if giving birth is a dream of yours, that we do not want you to give up. So get my book, find providers who can help you, know that your family is waiting. But I do have a favor. So I'd be extremely grateful if you would buy a book or an ebook, which is going to be greatly discounted on launch day. and then leave a review when you receive that download, because I know it's so hard to ask for reviews, but I'm going to ask for them. So reviews are the most important factor in how many new readers the book is able to reach, and each one makes a real difference. So I wrote this book to inspire others that there may be things like found in my case that haven't been considered that could save them from IVF or increase their success with it. So your review could help get this book into the hands of someone, a couple that truly needs these ideas and guidance. So I just want to say thank you for, well, thank you, Ashley, for, walking this path with me. It's been awesome to not go this alone, to have another friend that we can support each other through these struggles. And um, I just appreciate your willingness to come on today and flip the script and interview me to allow me the opportunity to kind of share my story. So thank you. Yeah, thank you for the interview.
This has been fun. It's been fun. It's a complete change of pace for me. So, Spill, what is your top fertility tip?
That's a good question. So normally we end the show where I'm asking the guest, what's your top longevity tip? But I thought it'd be good to, be asked, what's your top fertility tip? I don't even think there can be one tip other than, what's encompassing like my whole book, which is use functional medicine principles also, right? And in combination with conventional medicine. I just think functional medicine is often overlooked, and it is so important with building a healthy foundation, to create life. We need to renovate that reproductive health using functional medicine. So my top fertility tip would be to use functional medicine.
Love that. Well, Dr. Gray, thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you for bravely sharing your story, not just with us today, but through your new book. Your vulnerability, your strength, your expertise, it makes this conversation incredibly powerful for anyone facing fertility challenges or even supporting somebody who is. To those listening, if you are on your own fertility journey right now, please know you are not alone. There is hope, there is support, and there are answers that go deeper than you might have been given so far. I encourage you to pre-order your fertility blueprint now or purchase on launch day. Let's help make this a bestseller. Let's spread this important message far and wide. If you've already pre-ordered, consider grabbing the ebook on launch day. Every single purchase makes a difference in helping others discover this resource. Thank you again for joining us today. Wherever you are on your journey, we see you, we're walking it with you, and most importantly, don't lose hope. Healing is possible. Your story is still being written. Thanks
And
so
that,
much.
and as I end the book, I say wellness is waiting, and so is your family.